So today we're talking, and this is going to be a little bit of a Tara rant.
What? A Tara rant?
Okay, or maybe a big Tara rant.
Never heard Tara rant before.
But we had an interesting situation with the school this last week.
Uh-oh.
And
Not this.
had some conversations this week about people and their money and their car payments and their credit card bills and their student loans.
Oh, yeah. And all of it came together in Tara's mind in one big...
So, here's the thing. We changed our name to Living on a Dime to Grow Rich.
Yes!
Because
Yes!
you can live on a dime and grow rich at the same time. And that seems like that's contradicting itself, but the whole point of living on a dime is so you can grow rich. And I'm going to start off with the school because it ties in with my point with finances, okay?
So, well, actually, the whole idea you're about to go, this is the first little bit of it and how it affects your life and your...
Finances.
Well, your success in all kinds of ways.
And whether you're going to be successful or not, really. And I mean, I guess you can define your definition of success however you want, but a successful member of society, a successful person with your finances, successful with your family, all this stuff, okay? And, yeah.
Oh, Sandra's asking what makes the books imperfect.
So what makes the Dining on a Dime's imperfect is the laminate got a little scratched on the cover, and then they did not put the binding correct on all of these. It's still all there. It's still totally usable, but we can't sell them as brand new. So, okay. So, and Michael put the link. They're $15. We've got 100 left at the start of the show. I miscounted for those of you who I told 50 on Facebook. I'm really, really sorry. Been a long weekend. Okay, so what happened was we had this situation at school where a couple of weeks ago we received a letter from the school, the art teacher, saying, saying we're going to be showing nude Renaissance art pictures in your 5th grade class, and you need to sign this consent form saying that you give permission for the kids to see that. Okay, great. I did not give my child permission to see that. That is not appropriate for 5th grade in any way, shape, or form, period. Period. Now, on that consent form, it also said, I will provide alternate pictures for my child. I added in there that I will not provide alternate pictures for my child, okay?
This has a connection with
This has a connection with finances. I received a thing from the teacher then, and we've gone back and forth with a few emails. Well, you have to. It's required. No, I told you I was not going to be doing that. That is your job, not mine. I am not homeschooling him. You can do it. So then she said, well, it's required. I said, I don't care. Let him flunk. I really don't care. So then she kept harassing me saying, well, you need to send those pictures. Here's this. I'm sending the study guide home with you for you to look at it. Well, I can look at it all you want. I still am not going to do it. So then the teacher starts harassing Jack. And Jack and 2 other kids were the only 2 whose parents said that they were not okay with this.
There were 7 or 8 who told Jack that their parents didn't want them to do it. But in the end, they caved.
So we are talking photo, art,
quote
unquote art that has women that were with no shirts on and men with nothing on at all. Pictures of the statue of David, this kind of thing. Okay. So the teacher then starts harassing Jack and saying things like, you need to get this in. you
This
are
might
going to
really affect your grade.
it's going to
I'm really
start
worried about
affecting your grade. When she told me that his grade might go from an A to a B if he doesn't do this portion of the class. So she starts harassing and bullying Jack because I'm not sending the information back to school.
Well, and initially it started out with the permission slip came essentially saying you can say yes or no, but if you don't say yes, then there's something wrong with you. It was basically everyone agrees and everyone agrees with this curriculum and everyone's doing it. And so the entire thing was pitched as you have to do this or else.
Everyone's doing
this. Isn't the whole school. Just
Everyone
the one
agrees.
teacher.
This is for 5th grade.
Yeah. So partly this is where it's going to work into the story that Tara's talking about. Is there was a lot of pressure to cave on that when that wasn't the pressure was unnecessary. But those things happen in life in all sorts of ways.
Yeah, and so this teacher basically started bullying and harassing Jack. And threatening him, saying his grade was going to be docked because I refused to send these.
It was in a passive aggressive
pictures.
kind of way, so it was one of those things where he knew something was wrong and it bothered him, but he wasn't sure enough to really make a big thing about it.
Yeah.
And then when he described exactly what happened, we realized what's going on.
So Mike and I know several families at the school, and we talked to some of them, and we were like, okay, you had the same teacher in the same class. What did you do? Well, yeah, we really think that's a little too young to be looking at these pictures, but well, it's art, so we just went ahead and explained it to them and all this. So this morning, Mike and I went in and talked to the principal then, because the teacher is now harassing Jack. And this is where... Do you need Dave?
Dave, are you watching the output? A couple of people said they thought it froze. So I just want to make sure.
This is where I want you guys to start rising up and confronting these things. 3 parents, 3, said it's not okay for their kids to see nude pictures in the 5th grade, even if you're calling it art.
But it
3.
wasn't, well, 3 actually pushed through and insisted. There were others who I think just got overwhelmed and didn't want to have to present themselves and dispute the issue.
We had a similar situation with David at the same school. The teacher was using Ancient Aliens, a fiction
show on the History Channel.
show on the History Channel, as fact that this is where we got our technology was from aliens in the 8th grade. We, in 3 years, we are the only parents who said anything.
About the ancient aliens.
We are the only parents who said anything.
He was teaching it as fact, and we are, as a lot of you know, we are a Christian family. And they were actually, the instructor was actually saying these aliens planted our civilization, and therefore that's why there's no God. So that, obviously, you can imagine that didn't go over very well with us.
Here's the thing, guys. This is what this has to do with this portion, and then I'm going to go into the financial portion of it. In 3 years, we were the only parents to question why this teacher was teaching that aliens brought us our technology.
He did this 3 years in the past.
3 years before we brought it up.
We were the first parents to bring it up.
So when we came to this school, well, Tara came to the school while I was out of the country. They said, well, I'm surprised he's been teaching this class all this time and we've never had anybody say anything.
And that's the problem. Guys, you have got to start rising up and standing up against these things. Now, I will be the first to tell you, I think the public school system is in the toilet. But here is why it is in the
It
toilet.
has been for a while.
Because parents keep agreeing to this stuff. And they don't go into their school and they don't confront the teachers. And when the teachers are being jerks, they don't go and confront the principal. And when the principal's being jerks, they don't go to the school board and talk to the superintendent or their middleman to start standing up and saying, no, as parents, we are not going to take this. No, I don't care if he flunks the class. His grades mean absolutely zero to me. What matters to me is what he's learning and what kind of character he is getting. So if he flunks that class because this teacher's being a jerk, I don't care. But you know what's sad? We are the only people in our group of people that we know who stood up and said, no, we're not going to let our kids see nude pictures in the 5th grade.
So Carol says, I would think those pictures would embarrass the kids. They do.
They do.
And actually, Jack was very stressed about it before he knew that we were going to say no. And after we did say no, he told us he was very appreciative of that. The thing is, I mean, these are 10-year-old kids, and I think a lot of them are embarrassed. So the thing, and also, just so you know, this isn't like all the teachers.
No.
And it's one particular teacher at the school, and a couple years ago was one other teacher at the school. So, but nevertheless, it's inappropriate when the teachers in that circumstance are hard-pressing issues like this.
So if you're parents with kids in school, I want to call you guys to rise up and start standing up for this stuff. Some of the stuff that they are teaching to elementary kids about sex education in the kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade in California is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. But parents aren't standing up and saying, no, we're not going to allow our kids to watch this, to see this. And I'm not saying you have to take them completely out of school, but I already told Mike, I said, if this is not resolved, I will drive to school every day, pull him out for that hour, and we'll go to McDonald's and have a party. Because I am not going to allow him to see that stuff or be bullied by the teacher. Now, that's as far as the schools. And I think parents, you need to start rising up and standing up for your rights as parents. They're your kids, and you have a say in what the schools teach.
Well, and before Tara gets on the other thing, the thing that we noticed, because we have some friends on this issue, and also there's a different issue that prompted us to take David out of the high school where he was going. Because it was this sort of thing. Well, it was actually not this sort of thing. It was 100 times more than this sort of thing. It was sexual content issues that they were really trying to push at the school where he was in high school. And the thing that we realize is we have friends in this situation and in that situation who were troubled about it with their kids, but in the end
Did nothing,
said
nothing.
They felt like if they said something, it might look bad for them, or people might resist them, or they might look like the bad parents. And so they did nothing. And some of those kids really are expressing that they did not really want to be involved in those things. And I think what we're trying to communicate on this kind of thing is sometimes it's uncomfortable in life. I mean, in this context, it's uncomfortable as a parent, but this is the same thing that happens in life in all sorts of realms, in finance and in everything that has family relationships and all sorts of things. There are times where there's something that is not right and it needs to be corrected, and you have to face it, even though it's unpleasant, it's stressful, it might be terrifying in certain circumstances, but you have to face it in order to grow. And if you don't, you won't grow. And in these circumstances, a lot of our friends in some of these situations are saying, I can't believe they're doing that. I'm thinking that's because you're not saying anything.
You're not saying anything.
Yeah.
You're not saying anything at all.
So that was the school part, but Tara has other examples in other areas because it's not this show isn't about school as much as it's about in general.
So anyway, if you guys are parents or you're raising your grandkids or whatever, you get to those schools and you start saying something. The sex education that they're teaching now is insane. There's no reason for it. It needs to stick to biology. It needs to stick to science. But because parents aren't saying anything, they're letting them just teach whatever they want. So that's it for the schools. A little brief thing. I could go for 5 hours on the schools. But anyway, the next point I want to make is it is about time you guys started to stand up and rise to the occasion and fight your fear and anxiety. We have person after person after person after person every single day.
Is that Jonathan?
Oh, Jonathan, thank you.
For the McDonald's skip class
We
party.
love Jonathan.
We have to tell our Jonathan that Jonathan did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Here's the thing. Every single day, we have someone giving an excuse of why they have to go into debt. We had one person say, "Oh, I'm so glad I listened to myself. We got my wife that new car. She was in an accident. And
Right away, she was in an accident.
I'm sure her life was saved because of the new car." Okay, these people are Christians. Here's the thing, guys. God is not going to tell you to do something against his word. And in the Bible, it does not say you should be in debt basically at all. Here's the thing. You are using your fear to justify your debt. And you need to rise to the occasion and say, I am not going to give in to that fear. And I am not going to go into debt because I'm afraid of X. So what are things people are afraid of? They have to have a car loan because they have to have a reliable car. They have to have a car loan because they have to have a safe car. Guys, we have 25-year-old clunkers sitting in our driveway that we have been driving. We have been in 11 accidents. One of them, an SUV, landed on the hood of my son's tiny Mazda Miata. Really, they should have been killed. They weren't. If you are a Christian, you have got to start just having plain old faith. You're either going to believe God's going to take care of you or you're not. And if you're not, you might as well just slap God in the face and say, okay, I'm not going to believe anything you say. Because that's what you're doing. That's exactly what you're doing. When you go into debt for a car, when you go into debt for that college education, and you're not paying cash for your college as you go for it, you're telling God, you're not able to take care of me, so I'm going to take care of myself. And we're going to do a show on how to pay for college but there are tons and tons of ways that you can pay for college as you go or get college for free or significantly reduced prices. There's no reason for kids to be getting out of a four-year school with $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, $300,000. There are doctors like chiropractors. They spend $350,000 to become a chiropractor to make $80,000 to $100,000 a year. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? My chiropractor told me she's going to be 65 before her college loans are paid off. There is no reason for that. Absolutely no reason. What else are people afraid of? They're afraid that their kids aren't going to like them.
Oh, that's huge, and it's awful. Yeah, if that's the mode you find yourself in, you're never going to make the right decisions as a parent. right?
Period. My kids do not get a cell phone until they are 16 and driving, and they pay for it. Period. Now, if you are living in some sort of really, really super bad neighborhood, I'll let you get your kids a flip phone, not a smartphone, a flip phone, a cheapy phone.
Those are getting...
Well, I know flip phones are getting out now, so you may not even be able to buy one. But there's no reason for kids to be having a smartphone.
Get a jitterbug.
Period. Yeah, get a jitterbug. But because of your fear, I grew up in one of the worst, probably the second worst neighborhood in Wichita. We had, like, once every few weeks, somebody running through our backyard that had robbed the convenience store behind us. One time, a guy got locked in Mom's basement and who had robbed the store and was stuck there all night in the crawl space because the police couldn't find him. And he was in Mom's crawl space all night long. So don't give me this, for safety. Now, get a phone that is cheap. They don't need this smartphone. They certainly don't need an iPhone. It's ridiculous. They do not need an iPhone, guys. This is ridiculous. They don't need an iPad. They don't need their own computer. Our kids pay for their own computers. They pay for their own iPads. Well, with the exception of Dave, who got his as part of his job. But his job paid for it. So here's the thing. Stop letting fear and anxiety rule your life. Rise above it. Do you know what cures fear? Action cures fear. If you want to get over your fear and anxiety, take action and do something to go through it. This morning, Mike... Oh, is it okay if I tell about this anxiety this morning?
Sure. About what?
This morning, Mike was about to have a complete panic attack, I thought, going and talking to the principal, because these kinds of situations remind him of his abusive childhood and the manipulation and the passive-aggressive baloney that his parents did to him as a child. So when anything like this comes up, it really triggers a fear, anxiety thing in him. But you know what he did? First thing, Monday morning, we didn't even wait for the school to open up. We were at the door 20 minutes before school opened up and said, we are talking to the principal. Now, did he want to talk to the principal? No.
But I like the principal, so that worked out okay.
She's a really nice lady.
She's super nice.
And we're not saying anything bad about that. But what I'm saying is, if you have these kinds of issues, the only thing that is going to help you is to go through it.
Yeah.
And do it.
And go through it now. Because
don't put it off.
What my struggle with this particular thing was that the last communication with the teacher before we realized this just isn't going to be solvable talking directly to her was on Saturday. So we had to wait 2 days to be able to speak to somebody else. But what I have found is in those circumstances where you're a little bit afraid of it or it's stressing you out, you just need to do it now. Like immediately, as quick as you can, and get it behind you, because it's not such a big deal to go through it as it is to anticipate going through it.
Yeah, it's always the anticipation. And as a Christian, Satan uses that as Christians to try to keep you from doing what you're supposed to do. And we knew for a fact that we were supposed to go confront the school because of the oppression and the anxiety and the fear that was going on. And when it's that bad, you need to just go and do it.
Just do it.
Because nothing else is going to stop it. And once you do it, Satan has no hold on you. You've gone through it. You have faced it. And you have come out on the other side. The thing is, 99.9% of the time, you're going to come out on the other side just fine. So you might as well just face it and get up to it. Now, back to the spoiled kids thing. I kind of got off a little bit on that. But Here's the thing, guys, and a couple of people, I noticed it in, and this was actually one of my points, but several people said it in the comments. I don't know, purse or charging. See, Dave's asking for my phone. Why? Because he doesn't have his own phone. Because he doesn't want to waste his hard-earned money on a phone yet.
But he's taking hers because he's going to pick up Jack from school.
Mm-hmm. She never uses it.
Here's the thing about kids. Guys, you are parents. You are not friends to your children until they are adults and leave your home.
If you have to choose between being a friend and a parent, you have to be a parent, or else you'll never be their friend.
Period.
You can feel like you're their friend now, but if you're not a parent, they will never respect you, and the relationship will fall apart when they get to be adults.
So here's the thing. So people say, well, but my kids want to do this. My kids are just whining and whining and whining that they're 13 and 14 and they want a phone. Guys, you are the parent. If they keep whining about it, start taking away privileges. My kids never whined about having a cell phone. Do you know why? Because they knew they would not get one until they could pay for it, and they were driving when they were 16.
And I think we mentioned this in a previous show, because if the kid has a reason to think you're going to cave, they will keep chipping away at you. But there's a certain point where they realize this never works. Then ours didn't even try, because they knew this was never going to fly.
Movies. We do not let our children watch inappropriate movies. No sex, no violence, nothing under the age of 12 at all. Between 12 and when probably 18 at home, we don't allow any sexual movies at all.
To us, that's a lot bigger than language and violence. I mean, Violence kind of depends, but we don't let them watch violent things. But the sexual content we think is more damaging for them.
Mm-hmm. Because it's not okay, guys. You know, these kids are getting pregnant, and I'm not saying, I understand things happen, and I get that. But you are responsible for your children. And if you sit there and in your own home approve of movies that have these things, your kids are like, well, mom and dad say it's okay for me to watch this stuff, so why isn't it wrong for me to just do it anyway?
Well, and Jack, see, this is another thing. The kids in the class where Jack is, a lot of them, they're telling them that they're 10-year-olds. And a lot of them have told him they watch a lot of horror movies, slasher movies. And one of them, I think, is called It. What he says is apparently our other kids haven't seen it, but they're familiar with it, and they say it's supposed to be super scary. And what I realize is when kids that age see that, they eventually get accustomed to it, and they say, oh yeah, that doesn't bother me, but it does. They end up being insecure and anxiety-ridden as they get older, and sometimes they don't even know why. Actually, this is one thing that kind of shaped our thinking on this. When we were kids, in my house, I was always confused about which things were okay to watch. But when I was 10, a movie called The Day After came on. It was a TV miniseries. And it was okay it was on regular television. But the thing is, it was about like nuclear war and people trying to survive afterwards. And a whole bunch of people in America watched it. Well, at the time, I was 10. And I don't think it occurred to my parents that wasn't a good idea. But for years after that, I remember being afraid that we were all going to burn to death in a nuclear war. The thing is, we realized that just those little things can really affect the child. Well, the same kids that were having that are the same kids that own their parents at the school. And they get whatever they want anytime they want it. And the parents are persuaded that this is the way it is. If you're a real parent, you give these things to your kid. But in the end, kids don't respect them.
Well, and, oh shoot, it just went right out. Oh, this is the other thing. Stop leaving the news on and watching the news all the time, especially with your kids in the room.
That's bad. Just as bad for you.
When 9/11 happened, we had person after person say, well, what did you say to our kids? At the time, our kids were 2 and 3. We said nothing.
I worked at a television station at the time, and they said, how do you talk to your kids about September 11th? I'm thinking,
Now,
at their age, I don't tell them anything.
Now, when they're 10 and 12, if something like that happens, you don't sit there with the news on all day long, watching it over and over and over again. I had one friend one time, and her son sat and watched the news all the time. And I was like, what? He was about 12 or 13. And I said, why are you allowing him to watch the news like that? And she said, oh, he loves the news and he wants to know what's going on in the world. That was the most anxiety-ridden kid I have ever seen. And the parents did not put a stop to it. You guys, 99% of the stuff that happens on the news does not affect your life at all. At all. So stop watching it, and especially stop watching your kids.
Actually,
letting your kids watch it.
it's funny because I worked in television 20 years. I used to have this debate with this guy I worked with all the time that I would not watch news. And he said, well, what if something happens? What if? And I was realizing that what if is going to stress you out, and you're going to have a heart attack or a stroke when you're young because you're thinking about what if all the time. This summer, we were out of the country for 2 months, and I realized the things that everybody thinks about and worries about here, nobody cares about anywhere else. And over here, nobody cares about most of the things they talk about over there. And it made me realize, even to the degree that I allow myself access to the news, is too much.
There's no reason for it.
It's not really meaningful to your life generally.
Yeah, there's no reason for it. And the next thing I'm going to hit is the economy in the news.
Well, a lot of these things it's not just the news, and it's not just our culture and other cultures in the world have just gotten to be where people listen to something somebody says and they accept it as truth, build it into their lives, and let it affect them day after day.
And this is where I'm going to go with that.
Some of that is some of it is the news, but it's all sorts of things that people worry about. If there's something that you hear and it causes you to worry all the time, then there's a problem. And it could be like Tara with the stuff she was putting on the cabinets the other day. Was it shrink wrap or something? Mm-hmm. And somebody was really worried that this is going to destroy the environment. And the thing I was thinking is, if something stresses you out that much, it's probably not good for you. It's funny because I remember at a certain age in my life, when I was young, I started worrying about a lot of things, and I heard a story about a meteorite falling and hitting somebody's car. And for a short amount of time, I thought, whoa, you never know, you could be outside and you could die. And then I realized it could come through your house. And I was a kid at the time, and I realized you just have to say some things I can't control.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not going to worry about it.
Okay, guys, I'm going to have one more point here, and then we're going to take questions. So post your questions, and Michael grab them. So as far as the news goes, here's the thing. We are in the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. The economy is booming. Now, does that mean the economy is not going to go down eventually? Sure, it always does. I'm sure it will. So you prepare right now while the economy is doing great for later. But here's the thing about the news. So my assistant, Heidi, sent me this from Market Watch. And the title is, what does a middle class budget really look like in today's economy? Okay, so first of all, the title makes it sound as if there's something wrong with today's economy. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the economy right now. The economy is doing great. And don't sit there and tell me it's not, because it is. But here's what it kind of says, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit. What does living in the middle class really look like today? Income statistics say your middle class, if your family makes between $45,000 and $135,000. But the standard picture of the middle class is shifting, and in some cases disappearing. The middle class is disappearing. Okay, so
that sounds pretty scary, doesn't it?
That's horrible. Okay. So here's what's disappearing in the middle class. So in Wisconsin, the family is spending $600 on rent, $550,000 on student loans.
wait, $550.
I mean,
Per month?
per month. $600 on rent. $550 on student loans. $800 on groceries and dining out for 2 adults and two toddlers. People, get Dining on a Dime cookbook. Right there. You'll cut your grocery budget down to $200. $482 on credit cards, $340 or $340 on credit cards, $482 on transportation. They have $700 left over at the end of the month. The mom and dad switch off jobs, and the mom is quoted as saying, "We have such a high level of stress from juggling our schedules because they can't live on the $4,000 a month that they're earning." Okay, first of all, if you are making $4,000 a month and you have $550 in student loans, you better be using that college degree to figure out how to get yourself a better job. Because $2,000 a month is ridiculous. For those of you going to college, stop wasting your money on this scam called college. And that's exactly what it is. It is a scam. And if you need college, you do it in a way where you can do it for free or pay as you go, because there are lots of ways you can do college now without having student loans, period. The next thing, $800 on groceries. Are you kidding me? That is ridiculous for 2 adults and 2 kids. The mom, those 2 things right there, the mom could quit her job. The next one in here. The next family has a take-home pay of $9,000 a month, $3,500 in rent, $2,800 for nanny share, $500 a month on clothing, haircuts, and happy hour. Are you kidding me? $425 for retirement, $380 for health insurance, and $210 for transportation. Okay, here's...
Wait a minute. Actually, Miss T had a good question. She said, is this family living in a 1-bedroom apartment for $600 a month? That's true.
It says 2-bedroom house in Wisconsin.
Wow, that's cheap.
But still.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, here is my point. These people are not losing the middle class. The middle class isn't going somewhere. The middle class is doing this to themselves. Stop whining about how you can't pay your bills when you're middle class.
Well,
when you're spending $2,800 for a nanny to share it with another family? Are you kidding me? $500 on clothes and haircuts and happy hour? Yeah, I don't think so.
That's the thing I was noticing. Oh, actually, we forgot to say this because Tara mentioned something else about it's not the school, but parents that I know at the school were talking about cars, and I did share this once before, but they were saying because I was talking to them and saying, we're just really against debt, and we don't really want to get debt for this. They said, oh yeah, we have no credit cards, this and that, but then they said, oh yeah, but then you grow up and you have to get a student loans to go to college. And, oh, yeah, then you graduate from college and you have to get a new car because that
POS
that you had before is just not a good car anymore. And I was thinking it was a good car last month, but it's not a good car now because you have
college.
You graduated college and you feel like you need something more expensive. That's not a need, that's a want, and it's a want probably based on the fact that you're afraid of what other people are going to think about you now that you've graduated. Mm-hmm. And so these people, I thought they kind of had it together, and then I realized, because on the college thing, it was you have to go to college, and I was thinking, okay, what do you want to do with your life? Well, I don't know, but you have to go to college, and then you figure it out. No, that's like saying I'm going to go to the store and start giving money to the cashier before I decide what I'm going to buy, and I think if you're going in and you say I want to be a doctor or I want to be a lawyer or something where you absolutely have to have the college, then figure out a way to not borrow all that money. But if you're going in and borrowing the money in hopes that you'll then figure out what your degree is going to be in, you're just throwing money in the toilet, a lot of it.
Yeah. So to finish up this article, it says, people will always have opinions about the best ways to save, spend money, and invest money, but the reality is that different households have different needs. What a crock. That is a bunch of baloney. You don't have a need for a nanny. You don't have a need for happy hour. You don't have a need for fancy haircuts. You don't have a need for manicures, pedicures, a new car, all this stuff. That is a bunch of baloney. And here's what's very interesting. It says, the bottom line is the U.S. has been in a... The bottom line, even as the U.S. has been in a decade-long bull market, the middle class, as traditionally defined, is shrinking. And what it means to be middle class is being redefined in different ways over the country. What a bunch of baloney. But people read this and they say, yep, I'm right there. Nothing I can do. Nothing I can do.
Yeah.
$800 for groceries. What are you supposed to do? Food is just so expensive.
That's just how things are these days.
Just the way it is. No, for 6, I was spending $400 and I was not being careful. I could be careful and get it down to $250 or $300, and it is very possible, guys. So stop making excuses and rise to the occasion and get above this poverty mindset that the middle class and everybody has. It is absolutely ridiculous. There's no reason for it. We are in one of the best economic, prosperous times in our country. Stop whining about it and get your finances in order. There's no reason for it. Absolutely none. I'm done.
And one thing about the childcare thing, because in Colorado, childcare is ridiculously expensive. But I think people assume these are the ways you have to do things because that's what other people do and that's what other people tell me I should do. So people build their lives in a way that doesn't work for them at all. Everything that they do in life is stressful to them, and they absolutely hate every single day and can't wait for the day to end. But I'm thinking, you do that every day and you're just wishing that your whole life will end. All of your life. Why? And one thing a lot of you have noticed is we don't do things a traditional way, in a sense. In that there are times where we started realizing, wait, why do people go work a job for 40 hours a week in the context of the way we work a job? Why do people expect this kind of situation for medical stuff? Why do people do this? And I realized, the 40-hour week, go into a place and work and then trade your hours for some money, that has only been a concept for 150 years. And the thing is, ultimately, I think I mentioned that there was a time where I was briefly homeless. And I realized, it kind of, at that moment, it helped me really distill everything down to what is absolutely critically necessary. And what I realize is things like the job thing I was talking about. You have a need to be able to get what you need to survive, food and shelter and heat in the winter, stuff like that. But that doesn't necessarily have to come from doing it the way everyone else does it, where you go to college and get a degree in something you can't afford, where what you learned about doesn't pay for your college. The whole rest of your life, you're in debt to that. And then you say we're going to have kids, and then you have kids, and you do it the way everybody else is doing it, and suddenly your childcare costs as much as your income, and all these things are happening, but that's the way everybody does it. That you don't have to do it that way. You can say, why are we doing it this way? That's why we're self-employed. There's a point where we realize, wait, we're doing it kind of the way other people are doing it, and it's really not working out very well. And I think that we're encouraging you to think about that in your own life. Like, what things am I doing because everyone's told me all my life this is the way it needs to be done, and I haven't really given it thought. Is this actually making sense for me or for my family? Mm-hmm. And if you start doing that, you may find that a lot of those things are great. And I will say, I'm going to specifically talk about the news because a few people were talking about it's prudent to know some things about the news and current events and stuff like that. Okay, I worked in television 20 years. I did not work in news. I worked close to news, but I absolutely hated news the whole time, so I did not work in news. But I can tell you, it's fiction. It's only a product to get you to watch TV so that they get paid. It's not any different than any other business. And the reason I mention that is people have the sense that news is there for the betterment of mankind. And if you're knowledgeable about what's happening, you'll be a better person in a better place. That is not true. News isn't there for the betterment of mankind. News is there to keep your eyeballs on it so their advertisers pay them. And so because of that, it's completely distorted, because what they've discovered is scary, negative, terrible things sell a lot better than happy stories. And so my thinking is, I'm not saying you should totally be in the dark about everything. It's nice to have a kind of a general 20,000 feet view of sort of generally what's happening in the world. But do you need to know about that woman who disappeared
in Michigan,
3,000 miles away from where you live, and they think maybe her husband killed her and they're looking for her? You don't live in Michigan. You don't live in that place. You don't know anybody in that place. There's no reason why that story has an impact on your life
at all.
How is it benefiting you to know that story at all? I think it's terrible for her family. It's terrible for her. But the thing is, if you took that on with everyone in the entire world, you would have no ability to do anything for yourself. Those things just suck your life away, and they take your success away, because you are looking at stories about things, and those are occupying a space in your mind that you could be using for more productive things, and they're not benefiting you at all. So I'm not saying you should be totally in the dark, because there are some things it's good to know that there's some danger. And like Ellie and I went to Europe a couple years ago, and we knew that there was a terrorist alert. And there was a terror attack just before we got there, and a terror attack just after we left. And while we were there, we were aware that that is a possible problem that we might encounter there. But at the same time, we weren't watching story after story and studying every detail, because even though there's a potential personal threat, you can just overwhelm yourself with that information, and it becomes not useful anymore. It just takes you over and completely takes your brain power away from you, so you can't do anything.
Yeah. And look at Laura and Dwight K. We live north of Seattle, and you can't rent a closet for $600. That is exactly the attitude we're talking about. So what if you live in Seattle? We live in the Denver metro area. You can't get a one-bedroom apartment for less than $1,200 to $1,500 here. I totally get it. You make do with what you have, and if you can't make do where you are, then you need to move to where you can afford.
I don't think she's saying that they can't afford it, though. I think she's just saying...
But that's what I'm saying. It's that kind of attitude.
But this story is... I think what they're saying is this story is unrealistic in that it's saying that these people are renting the place for $600.
It's very realistic.
It's realistic.
You just move if you can't afford where you're living.
Well, that's true.
So...
But when people... But I think they're
questions.
talking about the nannies and all that as well.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is $600 a month is very realistic.
Yeah.
All right, so...
Mike, how long have you worked at television? I was 20 years in television, and I was a producer mostly for PBS.
Somebody asked on a 13-year-old car, her friends and family are telling her to sell it. Listen, if the car's still going, keep edging it along. I mean, unless something like the transmission or the engine just completely goes and it's like a $2,500 fix, keep going. We have a car that's 20 years old that we've been limping along, and we need to get a new one, but right now we don't have the cash to do it. So we're limping it along. We've had to spend about $200 in repairs every month for the last 6 months, but that's cheaper than spending on a new used car for us. So we just keep limping it along.
And we're saving the cash because we're doing new things with books, and we don't want to spend
along that same line, my vehicle just took a poop, not fixable. I live on disability. Do I take a gamble and get a used car for under $1,500 or get a loan? Here's what I would say. I would say get the used car for $1,500. The chances are, take it for a test drive, and you can tell usually if something's going to go bad pretty quick. But here's the thing. Even $1,500 cars are still way cheaper than getting a loan and getting a new used car. So let's say you spend $10,000, $15,000 on a new used car or $1,500 on another one. That $1,500 car will probably get you by to save up the cash to get another vehicle.
But let me say, it doesn't have to be a complete gamble. So what I would do is I would go out to look at your $1,500 car. When you drive it, if it acts weird, makes like a lot of strange. I mean, $1,500 is cheap, but still, if it makes a whole lot of really weird noises and it shakes and does weird things like that, you probably want to pass.
Yeah.
And
don't run it with the radio on. Don't run it with the air
if you
conditioner
have somebody who knows something about cars that can go with you and look at it, that would be brilliant. But the other thing is, if you don't have anybody that can go with you, if you can test drive the car and take it, I like to take it away from where the people are who are trying to sell it to me, because I don't want them to be leaning on me about the car and how great it is without me being able to look at it. So I like to take it for a little test drive, pull into a parking lot somewhere. While it's running, I just kind of poke my head underneath it and I see if anything
leaking,
is dripping.
squirting.
I mean, if it's air conditioning, water drips out of air conditioning, that's not a big deal. But if anything else is dripping, I won't buy it.
No.
And $1,500, that's, you're in a market there where it's a little harder to find the really good one, but you can look at 10 or 12 cars
or even 20 and find something.
And there will there'll be a diamond there somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so I would do that and not borrow the money.
And here's the thing to do. Every single day, look on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, wherever you're looking for cars. Tell all your friends and family, I'm needing a new car. Even acquaintances say, you know what, my car just died. Man, I'm really looking for a new one. If you know of anybody who's got a car that's $1,500, that would get me around for a while, then, let everybody know. So.
Something else I was going to say on this. Here, you look for the comments. What?
Okay, post your questions real quick here, guys. That scrolled too fast.
So the thing
give
about
me your questions again.
Challenging your fears that we were talking about earlier, I don't recall if Tara mentioned this, but also we have a friend at church who is super overwhelmed with everything. And recently we were having a conversation, a group of us, and she said, I'm so overwhelmed with stuff, so I'm starting this new thing. Well, the thing is, in those circumstances, if there's fear, I think, that other people won't approve if you don't do enough. And those things are going to make you unsuccessful in all parts of your life. So if you're doing more because you love it and you have the time and you can really balance everything in a beautiful way, that's great. If you're doing it because you're afraid somebody's not going to like you, or they're going to think less of you, or you're not doing your part, that's not the good reason. And in fact, anything in life, this not only, it's really important with money. So I forgot which things you mentioned about money, but things like jobs. People get so wound about their jobs. Like, I can't come do anything with my family or my kids and I have to work all these extra hours because my job demands it of me. One day your job doesn't need you and you're gone and they don't care. And you've traded all that for nothing in the end. Mm-hmm. So it's good to have a job, if that's the way you choose to make your income. But if you let the fear of them not approving of you cause that. I had a lot of trouble at first getting a job that paid very well. And the reason why is because I would go in there and I would say, this is how much I need. And they would say, we'll give you half. And I said, okay, take it. Because I was afraid, what if I don't have a job? And those fears will always work against you. So in the job way and in all kinds of spending, most people spend too much because that's what everyone else does, not because they actually need it.
Yeah.
And in life, there are also times where relationships have a major problem with relationships because two people are married, one person's parents are very pushy, and the person kind of is afraid to offend mom and dad, so instead they offend the spouse. Well, that's a good way to get a divorce. And all these
You're
ways...
welcome for staying with you.
Hey, I didn't choose that. It was hard. It's really hard sometimes to choose to do the right thing in the situation where you know somebody's pressuring you to do something that you know isn't right. But those are all different ways you can grow rich more if you do the right thing. And it can be money rich, relationship rich. Actually, relationship rich is money rich, because if you have constant strife with your spouse, then you will end up having money problems as well.
Yep. Glitter Girl, take the car to like O'Reilly or a mechanic, and they can hook it up to a little computer and tell you why the engine light is on. Sometimes it's nothing, but I wouldn't buy it with the engine light on unless you had a mechanic look at it or O'Reilly or somebody tell you why the engine light is on.
And the ABS light is airbags. That is likely to not be a good thing.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do it for that.
I probably wouldn't do that particular car, but I might look for another one in that price range.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. Do you keep up with a lot of preventative maintenance on cars or just fix it when it breaks? We basically just fix it when it breaks, but like we'll fix the oil. We keep the oil up and the brakes and those kinds of things. And so we're not anal, but at the same time we do keep basic stuff done. Yes.
Basically oil, tires, belts and hoses and things like that. We'll preventative maintenance those things.
Yeah.
Other things, we tend to, if it's getting to the point where it's failing or it's clear that it's going to fail, then we will fix it. It used to be that we would wait absolutely till it failed because we just couldn't afford it.
Didn't have the money,
Yeah.
Let's see. I have a tree that needs to come down, so how many estimates would you get for removal? I would say 3 or so. There, took care of it. See?
Yeah, I would say 3 or so.
I'm a woman who gets things done. Okay, guys, list your questions real quick here. My mother saved for a lifetime and went through her entire savings in about a year paying for nursing home care. Yeah, unfortunately, that's exactly what can happen. But, yeah. No. Okay, we come on at 4:30 Mountain in Colorado. We are in Colorado, so 4:30 Mountain, so you can adjust that to wherever you guys live. On Monday and Wednesday. Would you pay for a Carfax report before you buy a car? Yes. I do that now, especially when Colorado had floods. And a lot of the cars, when we were looking, had been flooded. So, okay.
Somebody asked me about how I deal with anxiety. Well, first of all, I'm a Christian, and I often have to remind myself God is in control of this, and you pray a lot about that. In fact,
worship music.
Just last night, I was particularly, I had to get up because I was struggling even in bed. So,
and he listens to worship music, and if you go to our playlists on YouTube, we have a worship music playlist on specific songs that we listen to when that's happening.
Because it helps me to remember that God is my Father. And he loves me and will take care of me. And certain songs, when I listen to them, really help me focus on that. Also, I had a lot of counseling. I think I highly recommend that. If you haven't started anywhere, I would definitely go get the Boundaries book we've talked about. By Cloud and Townsend are the authors. And if you go to our Amazon store, is it amazon.com/shop/living on a dime, we have that book in there, and it's really, really good on the anxiety because it helps you to sort of be able to have strategies to diffuse situations that involve other people. Also, I take lysine and arginine, which are supplements that help a lot with that. And the other thing is that whenever I have a major challenge, like this problem with the school, and it's overwhelming me, I realize I can cave and then life runs over me completely. Or I can face the problem and go through it while it's really painful, and then I get through it and the problem is solved and the anxiety is reduced greatly.
Yep.
So those are kind of that's a sort of in a nutshell, the basics. Of course, it helps to try to sleep and exercise and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. Share your thoughts on charging your college-age kids rent when they quit college and are only working. Yeah, you better be charging them rent. They're adults. And they need to be taking care of their portion of it. So how do we do it? Our children, when they were not in college and living at home, they paid all of their expenses, and then they paid us rent, and then they could eat whatever food that we had, but a lot of times they bought their own food that they wanted.
Something fancier. So they bought it themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't recall if you said this or not, but there was a certain age where we charged them a minimal amount of rent, and we stepped it up in increments as they got older.
Yeah,
Now,
each year the rent goes up.
the idea was it's really expensive to be out on your own where we are, and if we charge you a little and we increase it gradually, you will get accustomed to being able to pay, so that once you get out, it's not such a huge step for you as going from not paying at all to paying a massive amount. And also, it's really good in the sense that we sort of had some target ages that we thought around this age is when the kids would be good for them to move out. And so we sort of step it up at the point where when they get beyond that age, it becomes more and more
And
motivating for them to do
and
their
our
own
kids
thing.
know that their goal is not to stay living at home. Now, we live in one of the most expensive parts, one of the more expensive parts of the country. Rent, like I said, for one bedroom is $1,200 to $1,500 a month. So we have given them a little bit of extra grace with that to save up more. We've given them a year or two over what we normally probably would have if we were living someplace cheaper like Kansas. But they are paying rent, and they pay all of their car, all of their cell phone, all of their clothes, all of their everything.
I didn't see
Tanya?
what else you said, Tanya, but I'm not. I said I'm not active in a church. If you're not, you can still find good messages online.
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend only doing that forever and ever, but certainly there are some really good people that we love to listen to. Charles Stanley is my favorite.
Yeah. Yep.
But we have different people we like to listen to.
Charles Stanley, Joyce Meyer, David Jeremiah, Pastor J.D.,
Chuck Swindoll,
Chuck
and
Swindoll,
Dallas.
Jack Hibbs. Those are all really good guys to listen to. Hope was just called a bad mom this week because she charges her 20-year-old rent. He's working full time and not in college. Yes. Nope. There's no reason for
Whoever called you a bad mom,
They are the bad mom.
I would just say,
Yeah.
And if it's him, I'd say, hey, that makes me a good mom if you think I'm a bad mom.
Yeah. Let's see. And you do not have to be involved in church to be a Christian. Church has nothing to do with your relationship with Christ. If you want to know how to go to heaven, the only way to go to heaven is to admit that you're a sinner, realize that Jesus died for your sins, and ask him to come into your life and forgive you of your sins. That's all you have to do to go to heaven.
Because he already paid the price for you.
He's already paid the price for your sins.
Whether you take it or not.
Now, going to church is just getting together with other Christians so that you can help each other out and encourage each other. Now, I totally get there are people in church. They are human. We live in a fallen world because Adam and Eve sinned.
And if they hadn't, any of us would have.
Adam and Eve sinned. There is sin in the world. There is Satan in the world. Satan is here to do everything he can to try and destroy Christians, because the more Christians talk about Jesus, the more are going to heaven and not going to be in hell with him, because there is a heaven and there is a hell. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to find a perfect church. There is no perfect church. But you should find a good Bible-based church if you can. If you cannot find a Bible-based church, because churches are getting really hard to find now, and we totally understand that, at least be reading your Bible, listening to worship music, and going to church online and watching church online.
But if possible, it's not good to be alone in your faith, because it's easy to pick up on something and kind of go off on a tangent and pick up a pet idea that's your own idea and it sounds good to you and it sticks with you, but it's not really true.
Yeah.
And when you're around other believers, it's easier because they're more likely to say things that you realize, wow, I didn't think about it that way. Or if they're really close friends of yours, to sort of challenge you on some things that you think are right that maybe aren't.
Well, get together with a few Christian friends and have church at home.
I was going to say, you can go to, it's not good to be completely alone for an extended period of time. But if you don't want to go to a regular church, you can get together with some friends and do something at home like that. I have a Bible study I go to, which I really like because it's a whole bunch of guys from all different churches. So it's not like we're stuck into the culture of one specific church. which is really helpful in not kind of getting tunnel vision in an area that's not right. So there are a lot of options for that, and it's difficult sometimes. Sometimes you have to go hang out with people for a while when you're not quite sure where this is going. Before it's the same way with any kind of friendships. I have some friends that aren't in a Bible study, and the same thing with them. I just hung out with them for a while before we actually got to be friends.
Yeah.
So-
How much do we charge our kids rent? So, starting when they're 19, we charge them $150 a month, and then it goes up. It doubles every year after that. Then is how we do it. And so,
It doubles every year?
yeah. So we start at 150, and then we go to 300. Then if they stay longer than that, then it'll go to 450. Then or not doubles, but I mean
It steps up.
it steps up, and we keep stepping it up until they're out. So
Did you enter about the painting? Because a lot of people were asking about the painting.
okay, I'm gonna do a video on the painting thing after I'm completely done. But I'll do a Facebook video probably tomorrow on everything that's happened this weekend. But
Yeah, in case you're wondering.
I'm not a happy camper, but
In case you're wondering,
Anyway.
we were temporarily not doing the cooking shows because there's a renovation happening that I think Tara shared some things about on
yeah,
Instagram.
and Instagram on Facebook. If you
And
guys want to
Facebook.
follow my whole $200 kitchen makeover.
But it actually, Carrie Lynn, I was going to say something about that, but we hopefully soon will be back in there, but we have to get that
Okay,
finished.
sermons?
Carrie Lynn said, I listen to radio sermons like my grandmother and aunts always did. It's funny because there's a time in life where I had to drive 2 hours each way every day, and we didn't plan it that way, but it turned out that where we were living in a remote area in Idaho, I ended up getting an offer for a job I just couldn't refuse, and it was 2 hours away. Although at the time, it was supposed to be part-time, and we thought the other time, the driving time would just be part of the job. But in the end, it ended up being full-time with the driving, and I absolutely hated it. But I was a new Christian then, and I realized looking back, I think that God put me in that situation because I heard a lot of great messages online from really solid Bible teachers, and I learned so much great stuff right then. And at the time, I was thinking, I hate driving. But I realized looking back, that was a huge time of growth for me. And so in the end, that was valuable.
Yeah.
And now I still try to implement a lot of the people that I know that I really like, try to make sure I spend time.
So Emma's question is, so it's okay to sin and be selfish as long as you say sorry to God and ask for his forgiveness? Sounds fine to me. Okay, so here's the thing with that. We are human. And because Adam and Eve sinned, all humans are sinful creatures. Okay? All humans sin, no matter what. You're not going to get one person on this earth, except Jesus, who didn't sin. Okay? But if you continue to be sinful and selfish, there's a problem there, and I would venture to say that you truly have not given your life to Christ. Now, there are things that you will have problems with, and you will always have to fight that, and you will, like anxiety, fear,
Which are
overeating,
sins.
overeating, judging, criticizing, all of those kinds of things. But as long as if you do that, if you ask for forgiveness and then try with God's help, ask him to help you to start changing that. That's where the difference is. It's not okay to just go and just do whatever you want because you're a Christian, you're going to heaven. Yeah, you'll go to heaven, but that's not the life that God wants for you. He wants you to have a fulfilled and blessed life, and that's not going to get you that. That's just going to get you a bunch of heartache. So,
Well, and the thing is, we broke the world, and by the first people broke the world by bringing sin into the world. And the thing is, it's not okay to sin, but it's like a disease. We're unable to completely stop. Although when Christ comes in your life, his Spirit enables you to have better judgment in those times of temptation. You still will sin. It's unreasonable to expect that any human being is not going to still sin. It doesn't mean it's okay, and obviously it's good to try to control it, but on some level, some of it you can't control it completely, and that's the reason why it's it's important to understand that he loved us while we were yet sinners. And if we come to him, we're saved by his grace, and he puts his Spirit in us. But at the same time, we're not completely perfect. And he's then working on us, and eventually will perfect us. But we're not perfect now, and we won't be perfect while we're alive. So that's a mistake a lot of people think is if you... And so to be honest, it's a reason why a lot of people don't want to come to God, is they feel like... they feel like all those people are too perfect, or they think they're too perfect. No. If they think they're perfect, then they're definitely not. Because we should all recognize that we're not perfect. And that's why we're grateful for what he has done for us.
Yeah. I didn't shrink wrap the kitchen. What I did
Today
was
you were probably happy that you...
I put press and seal on the top of my kitchen cabinet so it's easy to clean. I just tear up the press and seal every 6 months when I clean everything on the top of my cabinets. And I was showing that video, which has gone viral. It's on Facebook, but I showed how I put my press and seal on the top of the cabinets, and then when I go to clean, I just roll that up, throw that little ball of press and seal away. But I didn't shrink wrap the kitchen. Okay, what's
Sarah,
wrong with my... Oh, go ahead.
Sarah does say, once you choose to follow Christ, you feel so much gratitude toward him for the sacrifice, love, and grace that you want to live a life that pleases and glorifies him. And that is very true.
Yeah.
And he enables you to make better choices in those ways. Mm-hmm. But still, the old self is there, mm-hmm. and will affect you. Doesn't mean it's okay, but none of us are good, mm-hmm. ultimately, except to the degree that he makes us good. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you should beat yourself up for it, but it's like a disease. Yeah. And the only cure is Jesus.
Yeah, because being a good person does not get you into heaven. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know how to say that kindly, but if you don't have a relationship with Christ, that is what gets you into heaven. So anyway, what's up with my side? I apologize, guys. I think I got a spider bite on I think a spider got in my shirt and it bit me right here and on the back. And it's itching really bad. I'm just about ready to crawl out of my skin. So that's why I keep holding it so that I won't itch it, because it's driving me crazy.
Yeah, she's, and she says that she had some sort of allergic reaction to the antibacterial stuff that that I like to use. Yeah.
Okay. So let's see.
Good after press and seal. Yes.
I know. Press and seal. Yeah. So anyway. Okay. Let's see. Rebecca, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's say you have $6,000 a month to rent. I'm just throwing a number out there. If it costs $1,200. What?
She says she starts it by addressing Ellen. So I think they're having a conversation there.
I didn't realize she was having a conversation with Ellen. Okay. Alrighty, guys. So
okay. So I have to throw this out there because I see some people are talking about it. Yeah, some things people get scared about when they hear language on television shows, and somebody is referring to the word repent, and it just means to recognize that you have a problem and admit it and turn around and walk the other way
and be sincere in your trying.
But if you do that and you don't have a relationship with God, it's not going to help. Yeah. Ultimately.
And as far as repenting goes, guys,
because whether you have a relationship or not, you're still going to turn that way sometimes.
And here's the thing. So let's say you're a wife in an abusive relationship. Your husband is a Christian, you're a Christian, but he's in an abusive relationship. Okay, if he abuses you and he says, "I'm sorry," that's not repenting, okay? He can be sorry for what he did, but unless he is doing things to change his abusive behavior, that is truly repenting. What would those things be? Being accountable to someone, a pastor, a counselor, AA meeting, something like that. If he's an alcoholic, actually doing steps to help him heal from that. Just saying I'm sorry and then keep doing it over and over again is not repenting, okay? Repenting means you are actually changing your actions. And if that means he needs to move out while you guys get this worked out, he will come over, he will help pay your rent, he will help keep the house up, he will help with the kids, he will be going to his meetings, he will be going to his counseling, he will be doing whatever he needs to do. That is true repentance on, that kind of a level. So it's not that you're not going to ever have setbacks and you're not going to repeat the same behavior, but when the same behavior keeps repeating over and over and over again, you haven't truly repented.
When you live in it every day of your life and it never changes, then that's a heart issue.
Oh, yeah. I've got drawing sav, Lisa. That's a great idea.
I think you should try that.
Yeah.
Courtney and a couple of other people had said they ordered a book a while ago and did not receive it. If you have not received your book from like 2 weeks ago, email us at editor@livingonadime.com because probably something went wrong at the post office.
Okay, we're going to do a giveaway here. Let's see if there's any last questions real quick. Our quick and easy menus. Okay, let's see. Any other last questions on YouTube real quick?
I'm sure it's not shingles.
No, I'm not sure, but it looks like a spider bite.
I think it's a spider bite.
Yeah.
It's not really huge, but it's got that kind of sinking little look like a spider bite does.
Okay, so type in easy on Facebook and YouTube if you want to win a quick and easy menus on a dime. I have several of these left from when we printed. This book is no longer for sale. And we're actually going to combine some books and have a new book coming out in several months, probably 6 or 7 months before we get it done. But yeah, okay, so type in quick if you guys want to try and win a book here real quick.
Yes, Carrie, I was a captive listener while driving in the car. And I think it's funny, I think about the times where he put me in those circumstances where
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right, here we go. Here are easy. I can't remember. I'll just pick whichever one, quick or easy, whichever
which
you guys
one are we
put in
looking
there.
at first?
I don't know. What do we got?
Well,
Anybody got anybody
here.
on there?
Not a lot of them yet. Let me look on YouTube.
Hold on. We'll wait just a minute.
Oh, there's.
Oh, okay. Easy. I forgot to do that. Okay, you ready? We'll do one on YouTube. Ready, set, pick it. There.
Put your finger down. Sasha Gobel. Oh wait, that's. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Sasha. Email me, editor@livingonadime.com. Tell me you want a quick and give me your mailing address. Editor@livingonadime.com. Okay, here we go. Facebook. Got anybody on there? Stop.
Juanita Young.
Woo!
All right, Juanita.
Okay, Juanita. Email me, editor@livingonadime.com. Full name, full address. And that you want to quick. And guys, give me your name. I have people mailing me their email address. Or their mailing address with no name. So I need your name. Name, address, that you want to quick. And do it to editor@livingonadime.com. All right, guys. Please check out our Dining on a Dime cookbook. We have some Imperfect books left for $15, the 20th anniversary edition. The covers are a little scuffed and the binding isn't quite done. We are still working on getting another printer. Thank you for you guys praying about that. We actually could use prayers about that, and God does help you with those things. We have someone here in Colorado that we are trying to work with and see if we can get an emergency printing so we have something to sell for Christmas. Yeah, so yes, Hollister, or James Hollister, you can type as many times as you can get it in before I do it. Yeah, so you can put your thing in however many times you want.
Well, it might be good to not just totally spam the chat. Actually, YouTube will only let you post a certain number every minute or two. So yeah.
Yeah.
So there would be a limit for that for sure.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So anyway, all right, guys.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, and don't be afraid. Go out there and challenge the things that are...
Rise above it.
Rise above it and challenge things that you know aren't working so that you can be successful.
And you can grow rich.
Yes. So yay. Oh, I guess somebody
Yeah,
needs
you
to...
have to turn it off. Dave's getting Jack.
Our production crew is missing
Our
today.
production crew is missing. Yep. Oh, sorry, Nebo. We'll see you on Wednesday, guys. See you on Wednesday.
Say bye.